Hey, Shannon.
Yes, Swanee.
Have you ever heard of the acronym KISS?
Yes, I have.
Do you know what it stands for?
Keep it simple, stupid.
Actually, it's Keep It Simple, Shannon. That's what we're talking about today on the McCann Dogs podcast. Welcome back.
I want to talk about adolescence for a minute because I've had an interesting adolescent experience in the last, I'd say maybe about week or so.
Now, are you speaking adolescent dogs or
Yes.
adolescent humans?
Adolescent dogs. The adolescent humans,
Right.
I've had some adolescent human moments as well. However, they're not my responsibility. I'm just the cool aunt, so I get to go home.
Not your circus, not your monkeys.
Not my circus, not my monkeys. Exactly. But no, just talking about Levon. We've talked a lot about Levon because he's grown up alongside us doing this podcast. And, life is great with Levon. I absolutely adore that little dog. He is smart. He's willing. He's eager. He's got a good foundation built with all of his skills, and we're having a blast. But I want to talk about reality because even with all of that, even with the fact that from the day that he came home, I've been training really hard. I've worked consistently with him. I've managed him incredibly well to make sure that he's not getting the wrong messages when I'm not paying attention to him, which is almost never. If he's in his crate, then I'm not paying attention to him. But the rest of the time, things are going fabulously, but there's still some rocky parts. So for an example of some of the fabulous things, he's starting to earn more freedom in the house at this point. Right. He's being really, really good when we hang out in the living room, and I baby gate off the living room. So it's just the two of us or the three of us, if Ned's around, hanging out in the living room. And he has developed really good systems because I've set the tone for these. So basically he just hangs out. He's not he's a really busy little puppy. When we're out and about and we're working and we're playing and we're running and we're doing whatever, he doesn't Mach 10 with his hair on fire. He's got all the buzz in the world. Right. But I've set the tone in the house. So when he's in the house, he's quite chill because anytime he started to try to party with Ned, for example, I would stop that. Right. So I don't like my dogs partying in the house.
That was good foresight too, because often a tiny puppy you can't help but wrestle and have this great old time with. But then the puppy becomes to have the expectation that the house is a place of chaos. Yeah. And we don't want that when our dogs are older.
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever we've been working in the house, it's always been like the calmer skills, right? We might get up to some tug. That's probably about the most exciting thing we would do in the house. But in terms of him running around chasing Ned and vice versa, in terms of him just being a wild child in the house, etc., this is never encouraged in my house because I like a quiet house. Yes. We have lots of fun outside though, and lots of uproarious times outside. Uproarious. So yeah, things are going great in that respect. I'm really thrilled with the fact that now I can settle in to do some work on the living room couch, for example, laptop in lap, and he just kind of takes that cue and grabs one of his chews and he relaxes somewhere in the room and it has a little chew or has a nap. And Ned, of course, is always chill in the house because he's almost 8. So he's grown up with that and he's used to that as well. So things are starting to normalize to a nice life in the house. He's 8 months old at this point. But there are some adolescent behaviors that I wanted to talk about because it's never perfect, right?
Nope.
This is a living, breathing being who has wants that are different than mine. So I was telling you before we got started, he had his first accident in the house this morning since he was about 13 weeks.
Oh, wow.
He's been very good about recognizing the need to go to the patio door and tell me that he needs to go outside. This morning, I was getting things ready. I was in between the kitchen and the hallway sort of thing in the front door, and he was just hanging about with me, which is what he's likely to do. And of course, Ned's always sitting there watching. Is there going to be food? Is there a chance for food? Please, I've been such a good boy. Can I just have some food? Anyway, so Levon's hanging out there, and then all of a sudden he went around the corner, and I thought, I wonder what he's up to. And I peeked my head around the corner just in time to see him starting to squat to have a poop. Oh. And I thought, whoa, what are you doing? Oh. So I stopped him, of course, and I redirected him outside, and then he finished outside. But I thought,
lucky you caught him in the act.
Look at that. I'm not as secure as I thought I was in this house training.
So had he been out to the bathroom already?
He had been, and that's the interesting part. So now that, of course, he's He's more mature.
Right.
I'm not going out with him in the morning anymore. He goes out by him. Well, he goes out with Ned. Ned and Levon both go out to the washroom together, and then they come back in together, and we have breakfast. So I think that motivation to come back inside and have breakfast had sort of made him forget that he needed to poop in that moment.
Yeah.
And then I just sort of went about my morning getting things ready, and I think I'm getting too comfortable and settling into too much of a comfortable routine with this young dog because, oops, it bit me in the bottom. So luckily, yes, as you said, luckily I caught it so that I could give him information from that because it's just a mistake, you know, and piecing it together afterwards, I have a feeling that from the living room, he understands how to access the patio door to say, hey, Mom, I got to go to the bathroom, right? So he goes to the patio door and then he kind of does this twirly thing. He just gets energized at the patio door, and that's my cue to recognize he needs to go out. But he's usually baby gated in the living room when that all happens, and the patio doors are right there. So I have a feeling that from the kitchen, situationally, it's just different enough that he couldn't quite piece together getting to those patio doors. And I might not have noticed it anyways, right? But I'm still at the point where he's 8 months old. If he sneaks away, I'm watching to see what he's up to so that I can just ensure he's not making bad choices and I don't need to redirect anything. So there you go. There's one. And I also had one on the weekend where for the first time, he did not respond when I called his name. And again, this is very adolescent behavior, right? Teenage behavior. I think that he chased the first thing that he got to chase, whatever it was. I didn't actually see what it was he chased. I just came around the corner and I called both dogs and I only got Ned. So I looked to see where Levon was, and he was over by the hayfield, just like animated body language and excited about something. So I thought, oh, okay, well, you know, we're human. I just called his name again. I should have said to myself, okay, self, he just blew you off already, so don't let it happen again. But being a human, I thought, he's a good boy. I'm going to give him another chance. Actually, I don't know what I thought. I just thought in the moment, I'll call him again and we'll move on with our day. So I called him loud and clear and I got nothing because he was in that prey drive mode, right? His head's in the hay and he's like, all excited
maybe
about
like a little mouse had gone into a hole or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Mouse, squirrel, chipmunk, bunny, something.
Bear.
Bear. It could have been a bear.
Most likely was a bear.
It probably was. He was ready to take him down. Go, Levon, go. So anyways, I, of course, marched up because I'm not going to be a fool and do it a third time.
I'm having a vision of you marching.
March. I marched up. He's still dragging a very short, long line just for situations like this, right? This is foresight, knowing that I've had many adolescents in my life, knowing that there's usually a moment where things kind of derail a little bit, knowing that this is a possibility. I'm always trying to be one step ahead of things. And when we talk about management, you know, we talk about management for these moments, right? Had I not had that line on him where I could then walk up and back up my voice, name, and a little pop, pop, pop on the line, had I not had that available to me, I might have had to let that situation go. And there's a couple of reasons, of course, that is a very bad idea. First off, it lets my expectations slip in my brain if I continue to call him without the results. And second off, of course, it lets the expectation slip in his brain. So he goes, oh, I don't always have to listen to my name. Okay, cool. So now I have a little bit of a training plan in place. I don't expect this adolescent behavior to go on for months because it's normally not like that. If you get on it right away, right? This is the thing. Don't ever expect your dogs to be perfect until they... Actually, you should never expect any animal or human to be perfect at anything. But until they are at a stage where it's like, okay, you know what? All this training has come into play. All this training has been done. The dog has gone through all the development periods. They're now a full-blown adult. All the habits are set. I'm really confident with my skills, etc. At that point, you can really let your guard down and be like, okay, I'm going to enjoy my dog. Some dogs are earlier with that. Some dogs are later, right? What's sort of the timeline that you've had in terms of letting your dogs get to that point where you think, okay, I think I trust this dog?
It has greatly varied from dog to dog and breed to breed, I've found. You know, I've had dogs, you know, in their adolescence, it's like, you know what? You're pretty reliable. But I've had dogs too that it's like, you know what? I'm not going to take the chance in your adolescence. I'm going to wait until you're, 14 or 15 months old. So, I use the same training systems, but every dog progresses different.
Isn't it funny? Yeah, we have to be able to apply these things. We have to be able to think in the moment, like, is this serving me, or what should I do to adjust in this moment? So now, because I don't want to I don't want to take the chance that now I repeat this behavior over and over again. Because even though it was set up well, I still had his long line on. I was able to march in, quote unquote. I didn't really march in. I kind of snuck in because I didn't actually want him.
I don't know. I'm trying to do a marching song.
I loved it. I was getting into the dancing.
I know. I was going to start to bang the drums and twirl the baton. Yeah.
I actually don't want to march in because I don't want my dog seeing me coming and going, oh my gosh, what's going on? She looks scary. I want to sneak in and I want to catch him in that distraction so that I can say, leave on, pop, pop, pop away from that exact distraction. Right. And he goes, oh, okay. I do have to turn on my listening ears even when I'm in hunting mode. Right. Got it. Okay. And, this just gives me reason now to develop my training system based on what Leavon needs.
Right. And mistakes are good because they're a learning opportunity.
Oh, absolutely.
We see that sometimes in class. We'll have a dog that's been a superstar all class and they've never really gone wrong anywhere. And then suddenly when they do go wrong, the owner's unsure of what to do. The dog's unsure just because they've never had the practice of working through a mistake.
Absolutely.
So it is, don't look on it as a bad thing. Look upon it as a learning experience for yourself too in handling.
Yeah. And the reason I'm talking about this is because people have this unrealistic idea that their dogs and themselves should always be perfect in everything they do. We actually just did a live group coaching call with our Puppy Essentials students yesterday where we talked all about how this training thing is going to go. And we talked a lot about how social media gives us this false sense of thinking that everything is always going to be perfect.
Right.
And then, of course, it sets us up to think, my dog is not perfect, so that must mean I'm doing everything wrong. Right. And I said to
social media is on so many layers.
It is.
It makes everyone feel bad about themselves in some way.
It's like
everyone has such nice hair and such nice clothes and and then now their dogs are nice too. And it's like, how can I measure up to this?
How can I keep up?
And we don't have to.
No.
We don't have to.
Exactly. And we also need to remember that nobody is taking video of that's not the moment I'm taking video of and posting it on social media to say, look at my journey. I'm taking video. I posted some things on my YouTube channel on the weekend and they were moments that I was proud of. They were dog training moments with Leavon that I was like, look how great this pup is doing. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited about his prospects in field. I basically took a snapshot of a bunch of his skills and I was so proud and I wanted share it. I don't share a lot on social media anymore these days just because of these reasons, right? It's so hard on your self-esteem to see what you think is regular life and we kind of forget that that's not. But I'm not posting the video of me calling him and him going, no, I'm busy chasing a mouse.
Right, yes.
And if I were developing my skills as a chef, for example, I might get to a point where, and I don't cook well, so this is a far stretch, but I might get to a point where I can put a picture of a beautiful dish that I've learned how to cook the beef perfectly and cook the vegetables perfectly so they're not overcooked and they're bright and colorful and, the perfect sauce to put on these and whatever and my side dishes and everything. I can arrange all this on a plate and make it look beautiful and snap a picture to post on social media. But that doesn't show you the 3 years of work it took me to learn those techniques and all of the ugly failed dishes that were inedible that got me to that point, right? Yes. There is no such thing as perfect in this world. No. We all strive to be the best we possibly can be, but know that your dog training is going to have bumps. It's going to have bumps.
Lots of bumps.
Yeah. And I mean, I've trained a bunch of dogs now, so I'm at the point where the bumps don't bug me. They don't trip my ego up. They don't make me feel less than in my dog training. It's just reality. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And what makes us different as dog trainers is the way we react to those things, right? So he got away with that. It's not even the case. He just needs better training skills when he goes into that hunting mode, right? I always say, if the coyote had the ability to chase the bunny, to chase the bunny for dinner and could pay attention to all of the distractions around it while it was chasing that bunny, do you really think it would step out in front of the car? Right? When you see a dead coyote on the side of the road, that coyote has been chasing something for dinner or breakfast maybe, or lunch, or, maybe brunch.
Or snack.
Snack.
Could be a snack.
Yeah.
Could be second breakfast.
Yeah. Make popcorn out of it. Yeah. So if that coyote truly was able to be distracted by anything in that moment, it probably wouldn't jump out in front of the car, right? It would probably see that big thing coming and it would veer away in the other direction and it would save its life. But there's a certain amount of blinders that go on when dogs are in hunting mode, and we need to teach them to listen despite that.
It's like when you're watching your favorite TV show, they're just about to reveal who the killer is and you're like, oh, and then suddenly, your spouse starts to call you and tell you something that's kind of boring about their day. And you're like, no.
Yeah,
and you
just wait.
Right. You completely tune them out. And our dogs do that too.
Yeah, of course.
But with our dogs, we do need to teach them that for their safety, they do need to have those listening ears on all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what I'm doing with Levon now, my training plan moving forward, fairly simple. I'm going to make sure that he has a long line on at this point that I can do those reminders from a little further away should I need to. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing some more very targeted training with response to name, with response to recall cues, etc. And
you're going to catch some mice and release them.
I am. Release them into the wild and let Levon chase them. No, the next best thing actually that I'm going to do with this is I like to do flirt pull work with my dogs to get them into that mode of listening even when they're chasing something.
Oh, you should mention what a flirt pull is.
Yeah, absolutely. So a flirt pull basically looks like a fishing pole or maybe a carriage whip.
Or a buggy whip or something like that. Yes.
If you can picture that, and it's not to hit the dog with.
Or a fishing rod.
A fishing rod, yeah. Did I say fishing pole?
I don't know what you said. I have no idea what you said, actually.
Is that different than a fishing rod?
I didn't have my listening ears on.
Swanee. Anyways, okay, so fishing pole, fishing rod, buggy whip. It is
carriage
basically
whip. Carriage your other words, yeah.
My carriage.
Stick with a rope on it.
Carriage, yeah. So basically it allows you to put a toy on the end of it, and it allows you to then move it around with some distance, right? So I can stand in the middle and I can put that toy on the ground at the end of the flirt pole, and then I can make it erratically move around. I can get the dog chasing it. And then from there, I can make sure that as my dog's chasing it, I can tell them things like sit, down, here, stop, whatever it is I'm teaching in that moment. I can also put something fancy and fuzzy on a remote control car, for example. This is another way I like to teach my dogs.
Yeah, it's a great way to get your kids involved too. They would love to dress up their remote control car.
Yeah, absolutely. So, things like this and working with transition as well. That's the other thing that I will not add. He's been doing a lot of this already, but he clearly needs more. Making sure that he can go from crazy excited to calm and still. Like that, right? Doing things like random sits, doing things like random drops, etc. So, training's not done by a long shot. Now, by a long shot with this dog, he's got really good listening skills. That was a mistake. And we now have a training plan moving forward to make sure it doesn't happen again. But trust me when I say it was coming. I was expecting this to happen at some point. I was watching for it and ready for it, right?
Right.
So now we just keep training.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with going back to basics.
Absolutely.
A lot of people go, oh, well, I don't want to go backwards in my training. I want to go forwards. But sometimes to go forwards, we need to go backwards.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Think about if you had a really complicated math problem to solve and you didn't have good basic understanding of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. If you're looking at this incredibly complex formula and you don't have those skills, you need to go back. You need to build the skills, the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And then hopefully now you can go back to that formula, do all the things you need to do, apply the bed mass and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah. I remember all those.
Stuff. That's the only thing I remember from math, I think, is the order of bed mass. But aside from that, he needs to have enough of those concrete foundation skills in place, which he does. And now we need to make sure that I take that step back so that I can reinforce even when you're chasing, even when the distraction is so great, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's my adolescent
you had quite the weekend, Shannon.
Yeah.
Quite the weekend.
Quite the excitement. Alrighty. So the other thing that we are going to do today is talk about simplifying our dog training as much as possible. We've got a bunch of questions in the toolbox here in the podcast studio.
Do we know the questions, or because I don't know them? Do you know them?
So they are actually really old questions at this point because they've been in there for us to use for a long time, but we haven't used them yet. So I have no idea what the questions even are. There might be some that I'm like, oh, I don't even remember what that was pertaining to, but they're all lifted basically from our social media, our YouTube channels, etc. This one's been chewed up by a dog already. All right. So
how do I stop my dog from chewing up the questions?
Chewing up the questions. That's a good question. You can put it in the box.
Yes.
All right. So the first question. My dog is hard to control at the vet. They talked about having to sedate him for nail trims. What do I do? So our goal is to keep our advice as simple as possible today. And of course, simple is relative.
Right.
So what do you think about that?
Well, I want to have my dog to have a good experience at the vet. So there's going to be multiple things I might do. One is I might drop in at the vet sometimes just to weigh my dog. They usually don't mind that. Give them a call to make sure. And we're going to go in. We're going to bring lots of treats. And we're going to go in, maybe sit in a chair for a few minutes, then get the dog on the scale, reward, do something a little bit fun. Sit down for another few minutes and then leave.
Yeah.
And the dog says, you know what? That was kind of fun going in there. Yeah.
Change the perception, right?
Right.
If we create a system with the dog that allows them to develop patterned behavior, right? We go to the vet, something bad happens. We go to the vet, something bad happens. Not bad from a perspective of us, but
something overwhelming or scary happens. Yeah.
If they've not got handling systems in place, if they're not confident about having their nails trimmed, etc., those are scary things for the dog because they don't understand what's happening. From our perspective, there's this logic, right? Oh, you know what? This isn't that bad. I have to go in for an endoscopy. I have to go in for, whatever exam is going to happen. I have to go in and get my vaccinations. I have to do this, that, and the other. All of those things are kind of unpleasant, but I understand that they're for my own good.
Right.
I understand that they're not meant to hurt me. I understand that I shouldn't be concerned about those things. So any anxiety that I have about it, I can just suppress and move through it, right? Our dogs don't have that same ability, right? If somebody's coming at them that they don't really know, they don't really trust, and that person is doing things that are unpleasant, it becomes frightening for the dog. And if we don't create systems that allow understanding for the dog, then that compounds every time we go back into the vet, right? We walk through the door, the dog has an unpleasant experience, it builds and builds and builds, this history of reinforcement in that scenario. So we need to create the ability for the dog to be comfortable there. And I love what you suggested, going into the vet, just wandering around, right? Letting them experience this thing, letting nothing bad happen to them. You know what I thought as soon as you started talking?
What's that?
Go into the vet and work on your shake a paw tricks.
Right? Yeah.
Stand in the stand in the lobby of the vet clinic and just keep shaking your dog's paw over and over. Working on tricks like that, right? Getting them used to the idea that you're touching their paws and this is a good thing. You're touching their paws, this is a good thing. And then once my dog is like, oh yeah, I'm a rock star at shaking paws, maybe the vet tech can come and shake their paw. Right? And give them a cookie.
Yeah.
Then you leave again. Right? Hopefully your vet is close so that this is not a scary thing or a really long drive for you to get to this scary thing. But having said that, you can also set up the scenario, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be the vet clinic. It can be anywhere that you can take your dog into for a few minutes, have them have a pleasant experience, and then move out again. And then you can transfer that to
like a pet. Most pet stores allow dogs in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
the big, like Home Depots, Canadian Tires will let your dog in too.
Yeah, most definitely. And then if you can pick a vet tech or the people to help you who know how to handle dogs like your dogs. So, people who have been in the field for a long time and have a lot of experience with handling dogs that are uncertain about these things, etc., that will help as well because you will have a more confident vet tech working with you and helping to trim toenails versus somebody who's maybe a little bit unsure because your dog's unsure. What other tips would you maybe offer on that?
I'm going to practice an exam at home too, and I'm going to maybe get my spouse or a trusted friend to come over and help with the exam too. So I'm going to practice holding my dog while a friend comes over and examines them. There's going to be lots of rewards.
Perfect.
So it's one thing for me to examine the dog, but it's another thing for another person to come over. So employ the help of someone else. You might even have them have a coat on or something different, because the vets dress different, and dogs notice that if they wear a white lab coat. They might have a stethoscope hanging that kind of moves. So, have your friend put on like a suit jacket or, something like that. Have them put on a floppy necklace that kind of moves. Make things somewhat appear to be like how the veterinarian would be dressed.
Yeah, love that. And I would say, too, make sure that you have lots of pleasant things happening in this scenario. Right, so if the situation is that the person is asking your dog for a shake of paw, make sure that they get lots of rewards for that, etc. And then what you can do is practice delaying that reward. So ask for the paw, hold it a little bit longer, right? This is not a pressure-filled situation. It's a situation where I want you to just be comfortable with me holding your paw. Right. Maybe wait a second and then, and reward that dog with something they really find valuable. You can do it with the 2 front feet very easily. And then what you can do is try to apply some of the same principles to the back feet. And obviously they're not shaking their paw with their back feet, but you can stand the dog and then you can run your hand down the hock and reward them as you're doing that. It doesn't have to be anything overly complicated for the dog to do. It just has to be an investment in the positive association work that dogs feel with that. Right. It should go without saying, if you have a dog that's showing you aggression over these things, you really need to consult a professional and not mess around with ad hoc advice from anywhere. Right. Whether it's a professional dog training YouTube channel, professional dog training podcast, etc., or just groups on Facebook. Right. You should not look for piecemeal advice if you are experiencing a real aggression problem. Right.
Actually, I have a story about Honda remembering something bad happening at the vet. Okay. So Honda had an ear infection when he was quite young, and he was a puppy, and we took him in, and the vet noticed that he had so much hair growing in his ears that was causing the infection. There wasn't enough airflow. So the first thing we did was clear up the infection, and then we had to get that hair pulled out. Okay. So I went back to the vet to have it done. And
they actually plucked it?
Yes, they used hemostats and plucked the hair out of his ears. So I would assume it wasn't a pleasant experience. And then it was done, and they brought Honda back to me, and I took him out. I was carrying him because he was a tiny puppy. I was carrying him out to the receptionist, and then all of a sudden the vet appeared, I think just to let the receptionist know what the charge would be. And the moment Honda saw the vet, he just started to scream because he recognized that man had given him a bad experience. So it was, everyone in the office startled because Honda has quite the shrill scream. And all of a sudden, this puppy's like, ah, because he saw the man that had plucked the hair out from his ears. And
doesn't that just break your heart?
It did break my heart. Poor little guy. Hard. So I, that's something that I resign that I am going to work so I can do this, and it's going to be a pleasant experience, and won't have to be done all at once. I can pluck a few here and there, and I'm happy to say that he really doesn't have to have his ears plucked very often anymore.
Oh, okay. So he did throughout his life.
He did throughout his life.
Okay.
They got less and less and less, and I can't remember the last time now I've had to pluck hair from his ears, but I addressed it. I just didn't say, oh my gosh, this is going to be a once a year thing that he's going to have to go through. Yeah. I have another little story too.
Okay.
My son's father, when he was a little boy, I guess he had a scary experience at the doctor's office with the doctor in the white coat. And his mom said, a few days later, they went to the butcher shop. And of course, the butcher's wearing a white jacket. Oh my gosh! And
embellished with red, I'm sure, with a cleaver in hand. I'm really nice. You don't have to be afraid of me.
And apparently, Ty's dad, he's a little boy at the time, just started screaming and ran out of the store.
I don't mean to laugh, but that was funny.
That is, yes, yeah. I could see that happening. You could, see that happening.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can just picture like the butcher just covered in blood from their work and. Hello, little boy.
Yeah. And you just had a bad experience with a man just dressed like that. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, boy. So curious with Honda's ear plucking. Mm-hmm. So it was a very unpleasant experience. Mm-hmm. So right away, there's this ingrained unpleasant experience. And this is where sometimes situational nature works to our advantage because we can keep that sort of segmented to the vet clinic and to that particular vet, as he already started
right,
to do
yes.
with that association. So situational learning is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it does help us out a little bit. But how long did it take you to work back from that bad experience and to get to the point where he was like, yep, you can pluck my ears and I'm happy to just wait until I get my cookie?
I bet he was probably at least, say this had happened at 3 months, he was probably at least, I'd say 12 to 14 months before he was like, okay, I'm fine with this. Because it's uncomfortable for them.
Of course.
And, I had to wait for hair to grow back. So it's not like like I could start the plucking, but I could start the ear handling.
Right.
So that's what I did right away is I let the ears feel better, and then we started gently handling, gently opening them. I took hemostats and I would, touch hair with them, and we slowly worked back. And, then when I saw hairs that were long enough, there was like a powder that you put in their ears, you get a good grip, and I just pluck. I just try to get 1 or 2 rather than a big tuft of like 10. It took some time. Some time, but I'd say, by the time he was just over a year, he was very trusting with it.
Good. And so just random hypothetical question that you can't possibly answer with any accuracy, but I'm curious what your gut says. How long do you think it would have taken you to get him used to that had he not had that bad experience? Or do you think it impacted?
It definitely impacted because he was worried about having his ears touched. I'd never had a dog that needed hair plucked from the ears. So it was never something I'd encountered before. Okay. It was brand new. I can't say. Yeah, I can't say yes.
It's such a hard question to answer. I was just curious if you had sort of a gut feeling knowing him as a dog. And he can be a little bit of a drama queen.
Honda is a drama queen.
We love Honda, but he can be a little bit of a drama queen at times, which entertains us quite well.
It does.
It adds to his appeal, for sure.
We say that Honda has a lobster ghost that follows him. And it randomly pinches him because sometimes you're sitting there and Honda will just go, and you have no idea what happened.
Oh my gosh.
And he's done this all his life. And I'm assuming it's, sometimes when you get up, you have a little ache or pain, or maybe one of his furs get caught under him. So I'm assuming it's just the lightest little feel, and he'll let out a scream. And of course, everyone in the room jumps. So then over the years, we said, we think there's a lobster ghost, and it just follows Honda, randomly pinching him every once in a while.
I've never had a lobster ghost of my own, but I'm going to keep an eye out.
I will transfer Honda's lobster ghost to you.
Thank you. Do you think Honda will be okay with that?
Honda will be happy to have his lobster ghost head out. It could be a crab. I don't know. It's either a lobster or a crab, but it's something with pinchers.
I think you need to call in one of those paranormal teams and investigate this further. It can go into the Scientific American journals.
Right, yes. I am going to get a paranormal team to come and follow Honda for the lobster ghost.
Good call.
Okay.
Hopefully you can read it without your glasses.
If I hold it back far enough, I can.
Big print. I brought my glasses just in case.
My dog runs away at the park and I spend hours trying to catch him. How do I fix this?
Yeah, it's hard to simplify this one. It really is. I mean, the simple answer would be you need to train the dog to recall.
Right. There's many things that need to happen here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one, you need to take the time to work on a good recall under distraction.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, the dog should not be off leash, because the more that they rehearse running away from you, the more they believe it's right.
Absolutely.
And it's fine.
Yeah.
And in that time, you could lose your dog, or your dog could get injured.
Absolutely.
So the dog needs to be on a long line.
Yeah, just like I was talking about with Levon and Adolescence, 8 months old, whatever time it is in your dog's life where that thing fails, right? And trust me when I say there's no perfect creature, be they human, be they dog. We all have our moments. So you need to be ready for what happens when a system fails. And if this system fails, how am I going to come back from it and not make it a permanent problem? Mm-hmm. And letting your dog repeat the same wrong thing over and over again is the fastest way to cementing that problem. Yeah. What we practice is what we perfect. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter how much training you do with the recall where your dog is successful over and over and over and over again when you're doing the work. One time of them going, yeehaw, I don't have to listen, and consciously playing keep away and consciously running and doing this thing that we see a lot of dogs do when they need a good recall, that is the quickest way to just ruin all your hard work. All your hard work. So the two things that you said in there to keep this as a simple answer: stop the rehearsal.
Yep.
And train the recall. And that isn't a truly honest answer. There's no magic. There's no magic solution to this other than keeping your dog on leash and online all the time.
Yep.
If you want to give your dog freedom, you need to train them.
Yes.
That's it. That's all there is to it.
And it's going to take more than a week to teach a recall. It takes a lot of time. Many months.
Yeah.
Yes.
Many.
One thing I'll mention, if sometimes your dog does get away and you can't get them back. So don't chase them, because chasing right away, they love, and they'll start to run away.
Absolutely.
What often we'll do, sometimes dogs will get off leash here in class and pretend there's something on the ground.
Yeah.
So I'll often reach down and pretend I'm getting something off the ground, maybe put it towards my mouth. And a lot of dogs are curious creatures.
Yes,
and they'll say,
absolutely.
"What are you doing?
What kind of wonders have you found in the grass? Is it bunny poo? Are you eating my bunny poo?"
Yes. So often, just kind of, ignoring the dog, keeping an eye at the corner of your eye, but pretending you're doing something in the grass and you're eating something, the dog will go, "I must come to see it."
Yeah.
Let them get really close, and then you can just sneak your hand under their collar.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Always remember, this is something to come back from some sort of a mistake or oh my gosh, my dog's loose and I need to get them. Do not use this as recall training.
No.
This is something, it will fail. They will realize that there's nothing and they're falling for it, and then they'll play keep away from that part too.
Yeah. It's a one-time emergency thing. You might get away with it twice, but you won't get away with it any more than that.
I remember when I was really green in dogs. This is going back to 2001 when I had my first toller, Jaden, and I went to a training group to do some field work, and there were some people that, various levels of skills and whatnot. And Jaden was probably about the age that Levon is now, 7 or 8 months of age. And there was lots of other dogs at the training group. And one of the women that was in the training group, her dog was blowing her off in the field. And in a way that, this dog has done it time and time and time again. It had all the moves. It would come close to her, and then she'd reach out to take control, and it'd go, "Ha! You can't catch me," and it would go and do another rabbit run. And so she put on this big show about, "Okay, I'm going home. I'm getting in the car. I'm going home." And the dog was like, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing over there?" And then it kind of went, "Okay, well, I better come and get in the car because it looks like you're leaving."
Right.
And I thought, I'm glad that worked that time.
Yes.
But even then, I was still, this was only my second dog when I was out doing this. And I thought, that is going to fail the next time you try it, because you've just wised the dog up now to the fact that you're kidding.
Right, yeah.
And now you got the dog in the car, but chances are next time it's going to be like, "No, I'm on to you. I'm suspicious. And I'm enjoying my game of keep away here."
Right,
so
yes.
You'll end up in a scenario where the dog plays by their rules. So this is an emergency fail-safe situation. It is not meant to be recall trained.
Right,
so you still need to find a program. A recall is not a hard thing to train. It just takes time. It takes effort.
Yep.
It takes consistency. It takes patterning. It takes rewarding. It takes correcting. It takes all sorts of things to get to that end
It takes work on our part.
Yeah.
So think of it as your new hobby.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's truly not an overly complicated thing to train. If you put some consistent efforts into it, you're going to get a good recall to come out of it. But you have to make sure that you're sacrificing that desire to give your dog freedom before they're ready for that freedom.
Yes.
I mean, I talked about Levon making his first mistake with a recall response to name here, but truly, like, all of the things leading up to this moment have been really good work, really good training, really good responses on his part, lots of reward building, lots of history building so that he can understand the recall as a very valuable thing. Right. And he can also understand it's not an optional thing. So we just need to be in this next level where we're training with the blinders on, so to speak. But aside from that, it's been a lot of work up to this point.
Yes.
But really worthwhile.
I like to compare it to if we're playing golf and suddenly somebody yells 4. Our knee-jerk reaction is to cover our heads. And we want our dog to have a knee-jerk reaction when they hear the word come to spin towards us and to start to move to us. Yeah. So it's like an automatic response we're creating in the dog.
Absolutely.
Nobody on the golf course thinks about it. Should I cover my head? What should I do?
Absolutely.
We just react. So we're trying to create a reaction.
Absolutely. The thing is, in order for escape avoidance, which is what you're talking about, in order for it to work, the dog needs to believe that they are actually avoiding something, right? Yes. So when we talk about recalls, we train our recalls using escape avoidance. So basically we say come, and then 1 second later we follow through with a pop. And through time and repetition, the dog learns that they hear come, then they're going to feel the pop 1 second later. And then there's lots of motivation, right? Like they turn, we cheer, we run away, we let them chase us, we pull out toys, we play, we work the sit at the end.
It's a party. There's a party.
Exactly. Yes. And there's all sorts of pieces to this party. So there's motivation as well. And over time, the dog automatically turns, right? You say come, you follow through with that pop 1 second later. As long as you're using good timing, the dog learns to turn to avoid or beat the pop. But here's the thing. The dog needs to be convinced that what they are doing is working to that end, right? That if they don't come quickly, they are going to feel that pop. So we need to put the training and the effort in to create that automatic response. We can't just do 2 recalls and go, okay, he's trained, he's going to do this. No, it takes time and repetition of come, then pop. And it takes the dog truly believing that if they don't turn, they're going to feel that pop, connect with that pop, etc. And the game is to beat the pop, right?
Yes.
And we use the pop as a mean attention getter. We use the pop as a game.
Right.
So.
Yes. And the pop is the lifesaver.
Exactly.
If my dog's heading towards the road, I'm going to be very happy that I've been practicing my come pops when I call.
Precisely.
And we do need to practice in many different areas too. Just because my dog comes well at the local park doesn't mean he's going to come when he's off leash in the forest.
Exactly.
That is a whole different scenario than a park.
Absolutely. We need to train in a bunch of different locations so that our dogs can generalize understanding. So, alrighty.
The next question.
Into the beautiful toolbox. And I'm pulling out a question. My dog won't retrieve to me. He just grabs the toy and runs away. What do I do? Poor dog. Poor dogs. They're just having fun in their own little world.
You're throwing something away, the dog's like, well, you threw it away. Why do you want it?
Retrieving is a skill, just like anything else, right? And I'm on my 5th retriever. You know, I've had a lot of retrievers. Only one of them had a natural retrieve. You know, I mean, I shouldn't say that. They all had basic instinct to go out, get something, and bring it back in a general direction. But none of them were like, yep, I'm going to go out, grab this thing, bring it right back to you, and then turn and wait for you to throw it again. Most of them were, okay, I'm going to chase that thing, and then when I get to it, I'm going to puppy flop on it, and I'm going to chew it up, and I'm going to roll over, and I'm going to throw it in the air, and I'm going to, forget that you even exist.
Yeah, and then when you do come to get it, I'm going to hope that you chase me for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. So retrieving is a skill just like anything else. We teach, how do you start your early retrieve skills with dogs?
The first things I do for a retrieve is teach tugging. Tugging is the end of the retrieve for my dog.
Excellent.
And so I start at the end and I'm going to back chain it all.
Perfect. Yes. Perfect. What does back chaining mean?
So back chaining means starting off with a small component, say the end of it, which is tugging, and then going backwards. And the last thing I'm going to be doing is throwing out that toy.
Perfect. Absolutely. So we're building the end first because that is where the value is for the dog, right? We're creating a scenario where the dog wants to play with us with the toy, fight us for the toy, tug, that tug of war game. We have rules that surround our tug of war game. We want the dog to be right into it though, so that once that toy goes away from the tug, the dog just wants to get it back into the tug. Right. There are other ways of building value with the retrieve, but I like the tug component as well. Some people will build drive and reinforcement history for just bringing the toy back to hand without the tug component, etc. We use tug for a lot of things, so I really like to build in the tug at the end of my
I think with my big dog sport I was involved with was flyball. And in flyball, you want the dog to bring that ball to you as fast as they possibly can go.
Oh,
so we really utilize that tug.
Yeah, Oh, Flyball's so fun to watch. As long as you have ear protection on, super fun to watch. But yeah, absolutely. So I start in a hallway with the same thing. I'm working on the tug part first, or, a quiet kitchen, bathroom. Basically anywhere where the dog can't just go, haha, I got it, see ya.
Right, yeah.
Because I want to encourage the play with me. So sometimes it's sort of puppy dependent to get them playing and interacting with me. Don't you find?
It is very fluid, because some dogs really take to it and other dogs are like, I don't know, I don't even want to do this.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
So, you almost have to kind of analyze on the fly what the best thing to do is with the pup at the moment. I've had puppies that have had no interest in going after a toy. With them, I'll hold them back and I'll get them all revved up and I'll tease them with the toy, and then I'll throw out the toy and I'll race with them, or maybe give them a little push back, and they go, oh, well, you're having an awful lot of fun chasing this. Maybe I do want to join in. So there's all kinds of little fun games.
Absolutely. What's that fun thing you're playing with? Yeah.
Right. Yes.
I also, when I am working with a young dog, actually, I never let my dogs just play with retrieve toys. They're always put away. Anything that is soft, anything that is a Frisbee sort of thing, or a disc, anything that is a bumper for field work, anything that is not specifically a chew toy. So basically, I should just say, instead of trying to do an elimination list here, I should say the only things that are ever down on the floor for my dogs to come and go at will are Kongs and nylon bones. That's it.
Yes.
Everything else is up high where they come out when I want to engage in play. I don't want my dog chewing on a tug toy, because most of my tug toys are not in any way indestructible. Most of those toys can be quite dangerous if the dog is chewing. And I also don't want to encourage my dog to chew on a tug toy or an interactive toy. I want to encourage my dog to play with me with those toys. So I'm setting the stage with that. I want to make sure that toy has a certain amount of intrigue and value, and there's some FOMO in there, fear of missing out from the dog, right? So I might, when I'm working with a young dog, I might have it in the kitchen up high on the fridge, and every time I go in the kitchen, I reach up, coyly up to the fridge. What is this? What is this up here? Oh my gosh, look, it's a tug toy. It's really exciting. And I wave it around and I bounce and I let the dog chase me maybe a little bit, and then I put it back fridge without letting him play with it. And he goes, oh, what was that? That thing was cool. Yeah. And then, of course, same thing. Anytime I go in the kitchen when I'm building this drive, just repeat that behavior, and the dog goes, wow, that thing's cool. And then when I actually do say, okay, get it tugged, he's like, yes, please. I really want to investigate that thing. We have a little play, and then I leave him wanting more. I never want to exhaust my dog. I never want to put my dog in a position where he's like, okay, this is boring now because I'm too tired.
Right, yeah.
Because especially when I'm building drive, that is going to set me back. Yes. So when my dogs get to adulthoods, I like them to be at the point where they could just go forever, because we've built enough drive and desire that I can go as long as I need to. Of course, I'm always going to be conscious of them not being so overworked, etc. But it gives me options, right? The other thing that I'm going to do is, if my dog says, nah, I don't really feel like tugging right now, I'm not going to go, oh, well, he doesn't want to. What do you do when your dog goes, nah, I'm not into it. I'm into this spot on the floor that smells really good instead. What do you do?
Well, I will remove the dog from the spot on the floor, and I will then maybe try to get the dog a little bit interested, but in a fun way for me. I don't, oh, come on, please, and stuff the toy in its face. Instead, I'm going to hold the dog back, and I'm going to wiggle it on the floor, and I'm having a great time.
What do you mean you don't want this thing? It's so fun. I can't believe you don't want it.
Yeah, you don't get it. You don't, no, it's mine. You don't get it. You don't get it. And, then I snatch it up, and it's like, nope, goes away. So I'm going to try to do a bit of that FOMO.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. Always remember that we're running the show here. We're the guiding light for our dogs. Right. A lot of times people go, oh, but he doesn't like it. And then they kind of give up. Don't give up. Your dog might not like this toy right away. Right. That's okay.
Yes.
You don't need to have a dog who has natural inborn drives to do this thing to create a dog that has inborn drives to do this thing, right? Yeah.
And I'm just never going to plead with my dog or our dog senses that.
Yeah.
Instead it's like, you don't want to play? I'm having fun with this. Too bad.
And do the opposite too, right? I use FOMO with my dogs so much. Yeah. So Levon, for example, if he wasn't into the toy, okay, well, buddy, you know what? You can go in the crate. Ned and I are going to play right in front of your crate.
Right, yeah, yeah.
You're missing out, buddy.
Right, exactly.
And then next time that toy comes out, he's a little bit more, and that sounds mean when I say it, but truly, I'm trying to create a dog who really wants that toy, and I'm going to do the things that I need to do so that now for 12 or 15 years, I have a great dog that I can play with that toy with.
Right.
You know,
and FOMO toys. Is the fear of missing out.
It is.
Yes.
It is. We didn't want you to miss out on that explanation.
Right. Yes. Yes. Because you know what? Sometimes I don't know what acronyms are because of my advanced age. And I have to ask.
I don't know what any of this. I Google a lot. Right. I get that Urban Dictionary thing going a lot. I'm like, what does this thing mean?
What does this mean? Yes.
What did my niece and nephew just say to me? Why were they laughing when they called me that?
And
I think that I'm missing something.
Sometimes I find if you say the words back to the teenagers, now they're no longer cool. And the teenagers get mad. It's like, what? You can't. Like,
It's true. If you want your teenagers to stop using specific language, just adopt it as an adult and be like, hey, look how cool I am.
Right. I remember when I was a teenager, the word yeet, Y-E-E-T. And I think it meant
yeet you to heaven?
Yeet. No, I think it meant to yeet, and you'd throw something. I don't know, but I started...
Don't yeet that at me.
I started saying it, but then using it in completely the wrong context. And Ty would get so mad. Oh, that's not what it... Stop it! Like, that's not what it means. And he'd get huffy with me, eh?
Oh my gosh.
But I never heard him really use that word ever again.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, just make the word your own and give it its own meaning.
My nephew this weekend texted me and all these please emojis surrounding an Apple Watch for his birthday / Christmas present. And I was like, oh my gosh. Is a phone not enough?
Right.
You want a watch too? Yeah. I have to talk to my sister because I have a feeling it's not something that she will. But it's also like, oh my gosh, I don't want an Apple Watch because I don't want to be attached to technology all the time. And like,
I would just get him an Apple, like just a nice Apple. Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna get him an Apple and I'm gonna put a strap on it. Here you go. Here's your Apple Watch. I'm going to wrap it up and everything. Oh, he doesn't listen to the podcast. He'll never know this is coming.
No.
I'm excited.
And you could always print off the face of a watch and attach it to the Apple too. And have it always be like, oh, it's always happy hour.
Here's your Apple Watch.
Why should you limit happy to 1 hour?
Exactly. You know, truly. And just one apple.
Right. And you know what? He will take that apple and throw it at you, so I'd be ready to duck.
I probably will. All righty. My dog pulls me constantly on walks. How do I correct him? So pulling dogs are no fun, eh?
No, it's not fun to walk a dog that pulls.
No, it's no fun for the dog either, really. And so here's the thing with leash pressure. If it works, they're going to keep doing it.
Yep.
Right? So I truly would, with any person, dog, recommend you get into a basic obedience class so that you can fix these problems. You can have the eyeballs of a professional to help you fix these problems, etc. But the short answer for the pulling behavior is don't let it work.
Right.
You know, and sometimes that means we need to abandon our walk, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't be determined to finish your walk. Be determined to fix the behaviors you don't like on your walk. That might mean that you don't get off your driveway for that training session. Eventually, you're going to be able to go for a walk, and it's going to be a much more pleasant thing. But if you take a couple of days or a week or a couple of weeks to just work that pulling behavior in the driveway. You know, as soon as the leash goes tight, put on the brakes.
Right.
Just stop.
Yep.
And then as soon as the dog goes, hey, what gives? We're not moving. Okay, now we can move forward again.
Right.
You know?
And maybe we'll move in a different direction.
Exactly.
Completely. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Spend that time just working on that simple idea. Today's topic, to simplify things, just work on that simple bit of leash pressure not working idea, and it takes the value out of pulling for the dog.
Right. And we often are innocent when they're puppies.
Yeah.
So our puppy says, oh, I see grandma. Let's pull over to see grandma. And so you let the puppy pull you to grandma. Yeah. And the puppy's learning that you just pull and they follow and drag yourself to people.
Yeah.
And it becomes a habit.
Exactly. So is this something, just out of curiosity, I tend to set this one up. As soon as my puppies come home, you know, we might be out in the backyard going for a pee, for example.
Right,
yeah. The puppy might be out in the backyard going for a pee, for example. And I will be conscious of any sort of tightening of the leash at that point. You know, if there's any sort of pressure on the leash, I lock myself in position. They don't get to go. And then the leash loosens a bit, and we move again.
Right.
And then I'll set it up with like, okay, my partner's coming home. And of course the puppy's excited to see Kip. You know, he hasn't seen Kip for 8 hours. He's excited to see Kip. But you don't get to go and say hello until you're no longer pulling on the leash. Right. So I've instructed Kip before he comes in the house. And here I am standing, holding secure with the line, waiting for that to loosen a little bit. Things like that go a long way.
They do.
If the behavior that your dog is exhibiting doesn't work to get them anything that they want, they'll abandon it. They're not stuck like we are on doing the same thing that doesn't get us good results over and over again. Just because it's habit. If we can break the habit, we can change that.
Right.
And even better if we can stop the habit from forming to begin with.
Dogs are excellent problem solvers.
They really, really are.
Yes.
Really are. So just think about what the dog is doing in that moment. You know, if my dog is pulling to get to grandma and gets to go to grandma, great Aunt Ida. I miss great Aunt Ida. Let's say the dog's pulling to get to see great Aunt Ida and it works. They're going to keep trying it over and over again.
Right.
And they just grow and get better at it if it works. So stop it before it even starts and you'll be much better off. But if you've already got that problem, that's the most simple solution that we can suggest. All right, more questions.
Okay, next question is, my dog tackles guests when they arrive. What do I do?
Ooh, is it a football game?
I
would
not
say it depends what kind of party it is.
Put a uniform on them and send them to the Dallas Cowboys.
There you go.
They need them.
Put them to work. Yeah, I mean, this is another thing. Greeting manners are a skill.
Right, yes. And it very much goes along with what we were just talking about. If your dog, as a young, tiny 8-pound puppy, has been allowed to go and accost guests because it's cute and adorable at that age, then you've taught them it's okay.
Absolutely.
And it's going to perpetuate.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure our puppies aren't doing anything as babies that we don't want the adult dog to do.
Absolutely. Set the tone. Like I said with Levon, he's so chill now when he's loose out of his crate at home and we're in the living room together. He's so chill because I set that tone. He's never gotten to practice anything else that is rewarding for him. So it's just the thing that we do now in the living room. It's been the habit. Has it been a pain in the neck to keep him from being a puppy and like doing puppy burns around the living room and stuff like that, or going wild or playing with Ned?
Right.
Yes, it has been. But he's 8 months now, and that pain in the neck is over, and the rewards are going to be abundant for hopefully 15 years now.
Right, yes.
You know, so it's worth it. Like, it's just like with our kids. We spend a certain amount of time managing and educating before we send them to be free and test their skills in the real world.
Right.
If we just expected them to know everything right off the get-go, they would fail over and over again, and the tone that was being set would probably be something we really didn't want.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
And remember, dogs repeat anything that they find rewarding or fun.
Absolutely.
And chances are tackling a guest is hilarious fun for a dog. And
I think it is. It's fun for me.
Especially if the guest, fights back. Like, that just makes it even more fun and exciting and overstimulates the dog.
Absolutely.
So we have to stop all that from happening. So shut it down.
Shut it down now.
Use your leash, use your crate. And, come up with a training plan that you're going to reconfigure your dog's brain to keep himself in check.
Absolutely. And truly, that is a simple solution. The simplest solution for this would be to put the dog in the crate. Don't let it adrenalize, attack your guests in this way that might not be good for great Aunt Ida.
Right.
Wait until the adrenaline has come down a little bit, and then the dog can come out of the crate. And ideally, when they're young, with a little bit of directed behavior, so that you won't have to do this forever.
Right.
Your dog will get used to the tone that you set, and that will be the thing that they go to for their reward in that situation.
And people that say, "Oh, it's okay, let him jump on me, I'm fine with it," they're undermining your dog training. So don't allow that.
Yeah.
Step in and say, no, we can't have him repeating this behavior, because he can't differentiate between Uncle Joe, who's 25 and super strong, and Aunt Ida, who's 98 and very frail.
Yeah, absolutely. And if by chance you know that the guests that you're having over are that type of person who is going to question what you have asked them to do and is going to make you feel bad for what you're trying to do with your dog, the dog does not need to come out. Right. It's going to be better for your psyche. It's going to be better for their psyche. have your party, have your dinner party, whatever, take care of the dog, obviously, but you might sneak away midway through the evening. I just need to go and let the dog out for a quick pee, bring them outside, do a quick little 5 or 10 minute training session with tricks and with a tug, and then tuck them back in the crate. We feel horribly guilty doing this. We want our dogs to be part of the action. We want to socialize our dogs, etc. And I'm air quoting with my fingers if you can't see me, because socialization is about, was it you that somebody was asking about socialization in our group? I think it must have been Puppy Essentials. And I thought your response was perfect. Remember that socialization is not...
It's not running around wildly playing with people and puppies. It's positive exposures to different things.
Yes, I think it was you. It was absolutely that exact line. I thought, what a great way to say it. Socialization is not wild, crazy, chaotic play and interaction. Socialization is observation. It's learning to be neutral in situations where we want the dog to be neutral, right? I don't want my dog spooking at the vet, and I don't want him being so wild that he can't possibly... Honda's just rearranging himself.
Looks like he's giving me the cold shoulder.
It does, doesn't it? He's facing the wall now. He's fine. Oh, now he's looking at you over your shoulder. He's just trying to look like a cool guy.
Yes.
So, I thought that was a fabulous way of describing socialization. So you bet. Socialization.
Right. It's really it's really a very misunderstood word.
It truly is. Yeah. Our goals for socialization seem to have become let the dog run wild at the dog park, and that truly is not a good way to socialize your dog, because then they become hyper responsive to every single dog they see, and it's just not a good scene. Letting your dog meet every dog that they meet or that they see out on the street, not a good scene. No. Same thing with people. There are situations where I've actually just switched vet clinics, and I had a vet appointment with Ned this morning just to do a general checkup. And it was a really nice experience because I walked into the vet clinic and they were very like, oh, this is Ned. Okay, great. And nobody came rushing into his face. And Ned's a chill guy.
Right,
He's the dog that I take to the vet clinic, and I don't even have to be concerned at all about anything, because he's just going to be ready for anything. I put all his learning systems in place when he was a puppy. I did a ton of handling. He's very chill by nature. He's easy to, lift the tail, put in the thermometer. Yep, I'll stand here while that happens. I'll look at you, Mom. I'm waiting for my cookie. I'm waiting for my cookie for this, but I'm going to be good while it's happening. And the last vet clinic that I was at, bringing Levon in for his early sets of shots, etc., there was a general excitement in the staff that was not appropriate for that situation. When I go to the vet, I want my dog to be in that chill state of mind. I want him to be calm. I want him to be cooperative. I don't want him to be thinking of these. I don't want him to rehearse high arousal at the vet, because that's not why we're at the vet. And there was a lot of I don't want to say poorly trained, but truly, it's not the right behavior to be flying at a puppy in excitement when you're a vet tech, a receptionist, a veterinary professional. Yes, there's a certain element of socialization there in terms of exposure, but I don't want my dog highly aroused at the vet. I want him calm. And you should want him calm too, because you're the one that has to handle him and draw blood and do the vaccination. You should want that to be an easy thing as this dog moves into adulthood. And the vet appointment this morning at this new vet clinic was just brilliant in that, well, I'm glad it was Ned, first of all, while I got to sort of suss out the situation a little bit and see if this was going to be the new vet clinic for me. And it is. I was really impressed with them. Really, really loved it. So I was glad it was Ned, because with Levon, I'm still very active in managing and keeping him from blowing his stack. And he's already a very highly aroused dog to begin with. He's very easy to excite. He's just like a Mexican jumping bean, if you will. He's got a lot of drive to him, a lot of get up and go. He doesn't have the same chill nature that Ned does. But either way, I want to mold and shape that thing, right? So just like I've done with the living room, I need to do the same thing with the vet. And now I know that I'm going to have a good opportunity to do that at this vet clinic. At the previous vet clinic, one of the visits, I actually had to put my hand up and stop the vet techs, because there was 3 of them who all saw this really cute puppy, which I get. It's really hard not to fly at a puppy when you see a cute puppy. but it's not what's
It's
right
not
for the puppy.
appropriate
And
for
I
that,
was
yes.
working hard trying to make him sit at my side and calm, right? I'm trying to get him to calm. So I'm doing sit placement. And all of a sudden there's 3 like cooing women running at him. And it's like, no, stop.
Right.
This can't happen. Like, no, I'm working way too
Right,
hard
yes.
to let you guys fly in right now.
Yes.
And like, you're veterinary professionals. You need to not fly
Right,
in. Like,
yes.
this is not the right move. And 3 of you at the same time. Whoo, was he about to, like, his head was about to explode.
Yes.
And, you know, I know a lot of people will have a hard time advocating for their dog in that situation too. And luckily, I don't think I really have that trouble anymore. Stop! No, don't!
Not
And
friendly.
I laughed, but at the same time, I was like, I shouldn't have to tell you this.
No,
Like,
right.
it's worth your while to have your patients be calm. And then I remember there was a woman that came in as well with a Bichon, and she was looking at Levon, and I'm trying to make him sit, sit. And she's got this dog, and she said, oh, do you want them to say hello? And I said, I appreciate you asking, and no, thank you. I don't want him thinking about socializing with other dogs in this space.
Right,
I didn't
yes.
go into a big, long spiel about how I never let my dogs socialize on leash, and I don't let them meet strange dogs and blah, blah, blah. It was enough in the situation just to say no. And she looked at me and she said, oh, what a good idea. And I thought, it is, and it should be what's being promoted,
right? Like
in
at
these spaces.
Yes, at a vet clinic. Like dogs are sick; they're not feeling well. I remember going to an emergency clinic because, of course, Atari had a bladder infection on a Sunday. They always happen on Sundays. Yeah,
always.
And and she's not feeling well, and she's a little bit like, "Yikes, where are we?" And this lady came in with this crazy Jack Russell, and I could see. The next dog he was about to jump on was Atari. So watched her jump on the row of dogs. And I remember standing up and, hey, my dog is not well. Do not allow your dog to jump on my dog.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember thinking, why should I even have to tell people that?
It's true.
Like, when you're at the vet, you need to show reverence. Even when when the day Atari was euthanized, I remember sitting at the vet clinic, and I remember a woman wanting to pat her because she was very cute. And I said, you can pat her. And I held Atari, and I said to the lady, I said, she is being euthanized. And the lady's face was just in horror, and she started to cry. And so you don't know why people are there. You don't know why. A dog that looks healthy may be being euthanized.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and she was really struggling with her back. And
and she was having a lot of trouble breathing. Like, that was basically her. She was just filling up with fluid and couldn't breathe. But at that moment, dogs can hide pain. And at that moment, she looked, for all intents and purposes, quite healthy to that lady. Yeah. But, be very respectful when you're in a vet clinic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, this has been a good episode. We've talked about a lot of things.
We did. We covered a lot of territory.
Yeah. Hopefully we simplified some ideas and made some useful thoughts.
Right. Yeah.
I made some useful thouts in my head for me, but I don't know if they'll serve anyone else. Just know you don't have to be perfect. All this stuff, just keep training.
Right.
Just keep training. Truly, that's what this episode should be about, is just keep persevering and training, and it's all going to fall in line.
Know that our dogs aren't perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our dogs make mistakes. We make mistakes.
Yeah, those social media videos, those are that, 3 years worth of work to get to that perfectly cooked plate.
Right, yes.
You don't see the 3 years worth of work. You only see the perfect plate.
Exactly.
Don't let that make you feel bad about your progress. Right. Comparison is the biggest killer of joy.
I like that. Like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to get that inscribed on my a tattoo. A tattoo.
There you go. All right. Happy training, everybody. Oh, I'm Instructor Shannon.
It's Dr. Swati.
Happy training.
The McCann Dogs Podcast is brought to you by McCann Professional Dog Trainers. We help dog owners to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. Please give us a call at 905-659-1888 or visit us at mccanndogs.com. Happy training!